other title page was about double that. Draft and
very, very simple, but it takes a lot of dedication. And I think the staff doesn't come in until 10, so... Hey, did you hear the assistant call Reiji sensei? Which means teacher in Japanese. It's typical for assistants and editors. It's also interesting that each of them use different drawing tools. I guess it really depends on each mangaka and what makes them feel comfortable when they draw. Did you work as a... How did you find this job? So it looks like all 4 staff have already arrived. While they're here, let's ask them a few questions to see how their jobs are like. How long have you been working here? How did you find this job? How about you? How did you find this job? Do you have Rensai? So what I'm finding that's different than most offices is that they actually talk a lot of the time while they're working. For some people that may be the perfect job. So Reiji's 2 male assistants have actually got the Rensai, and usually when this happens, assistants quit to start off on their own, but both have decided to continue to work with Reiji, which says a lot. But let's see, is Reiji a good boss? Yay! Finally, lunchtime! He often goes to lunch with his assistants, but since it's a nice day, he's gonna take his dog for a walk in the park, while also grabbing a small lunch.
Россия – самая большая страна в мире. Эти 17 миллионов квадратных километров таят в своих недрах множество ресурсов. Все это является достоянием жителей страны. Главным же из списка являются огромные запасы нефти и природного газа. Российская транснациональная корпорация «Газпром» занимает лидирующие места среди всех топливно-энергетических компаний во всем мире. Ежегодно объемы «Газпром» достигают 500 миллиардов кубометров газа. Это составляет 20% от всей добычи газа в мире, что позволяет «Газпром» быть самым крупным поставщиком газа на Ближнем Востоке. Такие объемы ежегодно приносят компании выручку, превышающую 5 триллионов рублей. Это позволяет «Газпрому» реализовывать такие проекты, как «Северный поток-2», проект «Ямал», «Лахта-центр» в Санкт-Петербурге и многие другие. А как же мы? Ведь ресурсы России – это достояние всех жителей страны. 3 ноября 2019 года, после долгих дискуссий в Государственной Думе, был принят закон о введении проекта микроинвестирования в «Газпром». Проще говоря, дать доступ к заработку на проектах «Газпром» рядовому гражданину России. Речь идет отнюдь не о выплатах всем 144 миллионам жителей страны. Закон всего лишь предусматривает систему микроинвестирования. Допустим, вы инвестируете в проекты «Газпром Инвест» $150. К концу недели ваша прибыль вырастет до $220. Представьте, если вы вложите...
So lunch hasn't finished yet. It's about 10 to 15 minutes before lunch is over. It looks like all of them are back here. They're using their own free time to work on their own manga. So, what are you working on now?
これからは原稿の続きをしますね。でもキャラペンって言ってキャラクターのペンがもうある程度終わったので、ここからは自分の書ける背景は書いちゃったりとか、スタッフさんたちに貼ってもらうトーンの指定を入れていく。
I think it's like just a little after 1. They're pretty much going to be doing this the rest of the day until 6 o'clock. So let me just take a little bit of time and explain how kind of this whole mangaka thing works. Since his manga appears in a weekly magazine, he has a 1-week production cycle. He meets publishers, decide the plot on Monday, works on the final sketch on Tuesday, finishes the Genko final draft with his
plot on Monday, works on the final sketch on Tuesday, finishes the Genko final draft with his assistants on Wednesday, and from Thursday through Sunday, he works on drafting and creating the story for the next name, as well as gathering information like taking photos for backgrounds, and then back to the publisher meeting on Monday.
20ページ入ります。1ページ確認お願いします。はい。
Okay, that was the first time he moved from his desk during work hours. You just witnessed the biggest action scene at a mangaka. So what do you advise people to do who want to become a mangaka? He says that the manga industry is short with assistants, so if artists have a set of skills, maybe that person can contact the publisher or mangaka directly for a job. He thinks it's important to keep trying to submit your manga to publishers or other manga websites like Pixiv, and also to find your own unique strength that can compete with existing popular mangaka. Look, he uses women's magazines as a reference for female characters, and he even pulls out his heroine, Mizuharu's outfit from the fashion magazine Ray. Interesting. So we're reaching the end of the day, and it looks like the manga is actually starting to come together. You can see that the pictures are starting to get filled out, you can see the tone. So they have to actually finish all of it today and send it to the publisher. Have you and your assistants finished the Genko?
はい、終わります。
I mean, all of it?
完全に終わりますね。お疲れです。また後で。はい、また後でね。
Reiji usually goes straight to dinner with his staff after work, but today he has a regular meeting with his editors, so he's joining a bit afterwards. So instead of having a weekly meeting at the office, Reiji prefers to meet with a publisher at an izakaya restaurant so they can eat and drink while they discuss the next episode.
はい、生を軟骨の盛り合わせがお一つございますね。はい、かしこまりました。ありがとうございます。お願いします。失礼いたします。
Les gens essaient souvent de changer leur monde tout en restant les mêmes. Ce n'est pas possible.
はい、お疲れ様です。お疲れ様です。
お願いします。すいません、お待たせしました。
いえいえ、失礼しました。おー、出た。やばー。すげえ、あ、エースが表紙なんですね。そうです。はい、
お疲れ様です。よろしくお願いします。お疲れ様です。年もお疲れ様でした。
はい。
とりあえず先週分がもう割と年もお疲れ様でした。
はい。
とりあえず先週分がもう割と
大丈夫ですか？
いただいたもの。
By the way, Reiji is sitting at the furthest location from the door, which is called Kamiza in Japanese. It's a top seat within the room, meaning the seat of honor, and the seat closest to the door is called Shimoza, which is the lowest seat. It dates back to the samurai days when would-be attackers came through the door. Usually the first person killed would be the person closest to the door with their back turned. In Japanese business culture, people still decide where to sit and stand based on this seating rule, and the Kamizama and Shimoza also apply to car seats and elevators as well. Nice! Reiji is finally finished with the publisher meeting and is now joining dinner with his assistants. Gathering itself is called Uchiage in Japanese, which means to drink and celebrate an event. In their case, the finishing of this week's episode. Alright, so that's the day in the life of a Japanese mangaka. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments if you like this video. Help me out and hit that like button. So if you want to check out Reiji's social media as well as links to his manga, I'll leave that in the description, so definitely check that out. If you want to see what I'm doing on daily, then definitely check out my Instagram account. If you want to help support the channel, check out the Tokyo merch. If you like these day in the life videos, then I've actually produced several videos already. Maybe I think this is like the 7th or 8th one. And if you've seen all of those, then don't worry, I have a lot more coming. So definitely hit the subscribe button and the bell button, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
What if I told you that you can target the exact person that you're looking for? The dream client that you're chasing day to day? What if they instead found you right here on social media, through Facebook and Instagram ads. You don't believe me, huh? Okay. My name is Gubaev, and I'm not from here. I'm from the struggle world just like you. And I used to work in corporate America. My job, believe it or not, was to sell television commercials. Go figure. I helped hundreds of Fortune 500 companies scale their businesses to the moon and
Ничего не записано на дороге. Это что? На. Что такое?
This is a day in the life of a Japanese space engineer. This is Takashi, 32 years old with a wife and son living in Tokyo, and he's just waking up for work. This is Takashi's wife, Haruka. She works full-time as an IT consultant, and since both of them work full-time, which is becoming more common in Japan these days, they help each other out with the morning chores. Like she prepares breakfast while Takashi takes care of their son. So the first thing Takashi does every morning is to pack his son's bag for Oikuen, which is Japanese for nursery school. His son is 4 years old and attends nursery school on the weekdays while Takashi and Haruka work. Oh, and that's his son, Kei-kun. His name is Kei, but the word kun is usually attached to the end of a Japanese boy's name. Oh wow, it seems like he has a lot of energy this morning. In Japan, there's an old custom called Teishu Kanpaku, which basically means a husband madly rules the household, but I guess Takashi's family is not the case. Gender equality is becoming more acknowledged in Japan as younger families tend to help each other out, like them. Oh, he's being the Otoban-san. At his nursery, only one person is selected each day to be responsible for making sure everyone gets food before eating. He loves the job, so when at home, he wants to do it all the time. Oh no, I think he's freestyling it now. Even on a busy weekday morning, they make time to have breakfast together, as the rest of the day is spent away from each other. You always eat bread for breakfast?
そうですね。ほぼパンですね。パン1枚とってヨーグルトとあとハムが。ハムパフェス。
While Takashi's wife is helping Kei-kun finish breakfast, Takashi tidies up the room and puts away the Japanese futon into the oshiire, a traditional Japanese closet specifically designed for futon. Believe it or not, about 47% of the population in Japan sleep on a futon, meaning half the country sleep on the floor. Countries like Japan with limited space in the house are able to maximize the floor space by putting away the Japanese-style mattress in the morning in order to repurpose the space for the day. Would you be able to sleep on the floor in your country? Now it's time to help Kei-kun to change into his day wear. Oh nice, he has his own style. I like it. Before Takashi goes to work, it's his job to take Keikun to Hoikuen.
そうそう、広いところでやろう。
Buckle up, Keikun. So Takashi rides an electric Japanese mamachari-style bike to take Keikun to nursery school. It's super common for most families with children in Tokyo, since many don't own cars but still need a way to transport their kids back and forth when trains and buses are not an option. Now, he's ready to go to work. Taking care of his son before work is sometimes a hustle, but he enjoys every minute of it. Takashi commutes to work by train, just like most everyone else in Tokyo. For him, it's 1 hour door-to-door with one train transfer in between, which is pretty average in Tokyo. He uses the commute time to check his urgent work emails and review reports from last night. Takashi, like many other Japanese, use the commute time to be efficient, like reading up on news or studying new language on their smartphone. But of course, there are many others that use the time to catch up on their sleep. I'm back with another day in the life. It is super hot outside, but we're doing this anyway. Takashi's train should be arriving right now. There it is. Good morning. What time did you go to sleep last night?
昨日は12時ぐらいですね。
It's super hot today, isn't it?
本当暑いですね。ちょっとタオル毎日2、3枚ぐらい持ってるんですけども、足りないぐらいですね。
Oh wow, you can see Tokyo Skytree from here. That's pretty dope. It's almost 10 a.m. Are you late?
あ、大丈夫ですが、会社裁量労働制でして、タスクで時間が決まってるって形ですので。
So Takashi works as a space engineer at Astroscale, a growing venture company with about 80 employees in the Tokyo headquarters. They're one of the only companies who develop satellite technologies to clean up debris in space, even partnering with JAXA, Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, for missions. Takashi normally works at his own desk with monitors, but because of COVID-19, he prefers to sit at the lounge when he comes to the office. In fact, these days, 70 to 80% of the Tokyo office are working from home on any given day. Takashi also works from home most days, but there are times like today where he needs to work on hardware which requires him to be physically in the office. So what are you working on right now?
午後のですね、打ち合わせの準備です。軌道上のロケットのアッパーステージを捕まえに行く。 宇宙ロボットの検討をやっているんですけども、そこでちょっと技術的な課題が見えてきたので、その全貌をどう整理していくか、コンセプトをどう作っていくかという議論をしています。じゃあ、打ち合わせやりましょう。
Now he's attending a weekly internal meeting. Every member updates what's going on with each project. Currently, they're working on a project called ELSA-D, short for End-of-Life Services by Astroscale Demonstration. A spacecraft designed to remove failed satellites from orbit, kind of like a car removal service in space, and it's scheduled to launch later this year. Now they're heading... heading to the clean room to work on the ELSA D satellites. Before entering the clean room, Takashi needs to suit up to minimize the chances of introducing outside debris and dust, which could impact the operation of the satellites and even alter their testing results. And as a final precaution, he gets into the air shower to remove any remaining debris or dust on the suits. So they just went inside of the clean room. Unfortunately, I can't go inside myself, but here's some footage that it would look like inside. Oh, they're back! So what did you guys do in there? Oh, they're back! So what did you guys do in there?
スイッチのテストをしてまして、最初捕まえるものを作ってるんですけども、それをちゃんと捕まえたというのを、判定するテスト、判定するスイッチのテストです。
So what's this?
これは高温層といって温度の環境を作る試験装置です。低温はマイナス50度ぐらいといって温度の環境を作る試験装置です。低温はマイナス50度ぐらい、高温もプラス80度ぐらいまでその中の環境を作れる。
Apparently, they also connect a vacuum pump to it to simulate the pressure in space. Have you ever put food in there?
食べ物入れたことないですけど。
Finally, he gets a break. What's the most enjoyable part of working here?
そうですね。最近最終テストが続いてますけど、テストがうまくいくととても嬉しいですね。
So Takashi has another video conference. This is probably more than what he would have normally, but since staff are working remotely, it's the easiest way to communicate these days, especially when reviewing project documentation together. These days, a lot of meetings are done remotely, which they're doing right now, but it might take some time. So while they're doing that, let's explore the space. Pun intended. This is a scaled model of the ELSA D satellites. The blue wings are the solar panels which power the satellite itself, and the gold sheets around the center body works as heat insulation. The bottom magnet picks up the space debris, and once picked up, it shuttles it to a lower altitude in the atmosphere and burns them up both. And this one came before the ELSA D. It's insulation, which power the satellite itself, and the gold sheets around the center body works as heat insulation. The bottom magnet picks up the space debris, and once picked up, it shuttles it to a lower altitude in the atmosphere and burns them up both. And this one came before the ELSA D. Its job was to observe how much space debris was out there. Sensors that are housed inside catch small space debris, and then it estimates the total amount of space debris out there. So I was actually planning to show you guys around this place, but a lot of the places I actually don't get access to. For example, right behind me is the MCC Mission Control Center, and they won't let me inside because there's top secret stuff going on there. But oh well, let's go find Takashi. The building across the street is part of their office as well. I guess that's Tokyo real estate for you. And now they have some time to prepare and discuss the tech. And now they have some time to prepare and discuss the technical points for the big meeting later this afternoon. Finally, lunchtime. They regularly eat at restaurants, but they're in a rush today to make an off-site afternoon meeting, so they decided to pick up lunch from the supermarket instead. Whoa, he got the soba and negi torodon set. Great choice. Now, Takashi and his colleague are heading out to meet Gitai, a space robotics company, to have a technical discussion about using their technology on future space debris removal projects. Wow, They're taking off their shoes before entering the office. This must be a very Japanese company. Since it's his colleague's first time meeting, they exchange meishi, also known as business cards, which is still a major part of Japanese business culture. There are certain manners on how to give and receive the cards, which is one of the first things you learn when you work in a Japanese company. For example, when there are multiple people like today, you exchange cards one by one in order the person with the highest position to the person with the lowest position. Oh, and it looks like they made a 3D printed model of the arm that they're working on. At this point, though, it's probably classified information. So this meeting looks like it's going to take some time. Let's try to explore this place since we didn't get to explore Takashi's office. So just right behind me, it looks like they have a bunch of different spare parts to build everything. It's so cool. So this room is completely empty right now, and to be honest with you, I don't really know what's behind me, but it looks pretty interesting. Let me know in the comments if any of you know what it is or what it does. Oh, that guy's working on something. Let's ask what he's doing. Can you show me what the machine looks like? Oh wow, you have a working model and it's connected to VR goggles? Oh, it's controlling the robot over there. That's next level stuff. And of course, it can pick stuff up. Excuse me, can I ask what you're doing?
ロボットがソーラーパネルを組み立てるっていうタスクがあるんですけど、それの装置を設計しているところです。今これと同じものがこのビショップっていう今ドームのモップの中に入っていて、
Can you show me? I see the...
今ドームのモップの中に入っていて、
Can you show me? I see the arm takes those pieces and puts them together like that. Well, that was unexpected, but I think it's time to go back to the meeting to see what's going on. Oh, perfect! Just in time. Looks like they're finishing up. Wow, that was quite long.
長かったです。毎回3、4時間議論してます。
So, are you going back to the office now?
家に戻って子供の保育園のお迎えです。
What's in the bag?
宿題とか鉛筆とかマスクとか体温計が入ってます。教室に入る前に測って記録します。
That's actually a Kumon bag for... Keikun as he takes math. What's in the bag?
宿題とか鉛筆とかマスクとか体温計が入ってます。教室に入る前に測って記録します。
That's actually a Kumon bag for Keikun as he takes math and Japanese Kumon classes after his nursery school. Kumon schools originated in Japan to help supplement kids' education by giving them 30-minute assignments every day.
いやいや、これだけだね。カフェインが入ってるから。OK。体温を測りましょう。
Nice. He doesn't have a fever, so he can go to the classroom. Keikun usually stays a bit longer, but because of the pandemic, he only gets his homework checked and then picks up new ones to minimize his stay there. Yay! Finally home! What are you gonna do now?
今日のメールのチェックしてます。
While Haruka prepares for dinner, Takashi does a little bit of work.
ミニ四駆やろうぜ。
So Takashi plays Tamiya mini four-wheel drive race cars with Keikun when he has time. In fact, Takashi used to play with it when he was a kid, and just like Dad, Keikun is into cars and machines, so it's perfect for their father and son time. It's pretty amazing how he manages his work schedule and family time in Japan. Whoa, dinner's ready. That looks pretty good. And of course, dinner wouldn't start without Keikun's otoban-san. So after dinner and taking their baths, they all spend time by taking turns playing their favorite PS4 game together, Dragon Quest XI. So it looks like this is what they do at the end of the day. They're probably going to finish off around 10 o'clock because that's when Kay goes to sleep. And then his parents will probably go to sleep around 12 o'clock. So that's pretty much a day in the life of a Japanese space engineer. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments. If you like this video, help me out and hit that like button. If you guys want to see what I'm doing on the daily, check out my Instagram account. And if you want to help support the channel, check out the Tokyo merch. And if you guys want to see more day in the life videos, hit that subscribe button and the bell button. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Design better projects faster with Envato Elements. Get unlimited downloads of beautiful and ready-to-use templates for your digital projects. Create more with premium design assets, video templates, mockups, fonts, presentations, photos, audio files, and more, all with commercial licenses for extra peace of mind. Envato Elements will make any project better while saving you time, effort, and money. Get unlimited downloads with Envato Elements and start creating today.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to my journey of creating a city builder game from scratch using my own engine. This week I've got quite a few various little updates I want to get done, and I'm also going to be doing some work on the art style of the game. So in the last episode video I was working on the save system, and that is now complete and working very nicely. Also recently I've been reshuffling some of the base systems in the game and tidying up some of the code just to make sure that I have a very solid foundation to start building up upon. This week, if we have a look in Trello, you can see that I've reached the final update of what I've been calling version 0.1. And this update is going to include quite a few miscellaneous loose end tidy up tasks that didn't really fit into any of the other categories nicely. So I'm going to get started now, and I will show you what I'm working on in a bit. So I'm working on the first task of the day, which is to redo the camera movement. It's been annoying me for a while. You can only move the camera around using the arrow keys. I'd much prefer to be able to drag the world around using the mouse. So I've just implemented that, and I find that a lot easier to use, although you can still use the arrow keys if you prefer. Just about to stop for lunch now. For the rest of the morning I finished off the camera stuff, got the rotations working and the zooming in and out, and just generally made sure that the movement's all nice and smooth and as easy to use as it possibly can be. So that's all done now. I'll move on to the next task this afternoon, but first I'm just going to have a quick lunch and then maybe go for a run. It's a bit snowy, but I don't think it's too deep yet. The next thing I've been working on is the selection guide, which is this square that shows you which tile in the world you're currently selecting. Previously it just looked like this, a simple square, which I didn't really like. It didn't look very professional. So I did a bit of work in the shaders, some maths, and created a slightly nicer looking shape, a bit more of a rounded shape. And I also tried to smooth out its movement a bit, so that when you move from tile to tile, it doesn't instantly flick to the next tile. It actually has a slight sliding animation as it goes between tiles, which makes it feel a lot smoother to work with. Moving on to the next task now, which is going to be to set
Скотинация,
up
знаешь, такая есть такая. Скотина, ну у тебя понятно. Скотина тоже. Да нет, просто. Что тебе хочется мне слышать? Ну, да. Наоборот. Приедешь и так. Так это интересно, туда приехал, и тогда и поговорим. А зачем мне тогда нечего? Так говорить-то можно и так, это же, знаете. Ну да, ладно. Ладно, поговорим.
Simple debug system. I just want to have a simple panel in the game for me as the developer to give me some feedback about how the game's running, how the performance is, how many calculations and updates are happening per second, and then also maybe to give me a few options to toggle on like special debug views in the game. And I haven't got very far with that yet, so I've just got this panel which shows up when I press the tab key, but I'll be doing more work on that tomorrow. So I'm working on the debug stuff this morning. I've just set up a really simple debugging system in the code which allows any part of the code to report when a certain event happens to the debugger. So here in the Pathfinder, I'm reporting every time a pathfinding calculation takes place, and that then allows me to keep track of how often it's happening, and I can then display that information in the debugging panel. So I'm showing things like how often pathfinding calculations are happening, how many render calls are happening per frame, how many objects there are in the world, and then just a load of example values because I was testing out the layout. But as development goes on, I'll be displaying more and more values in here as I see necessary. Just added the first couple of options to the debugging panel. The first one is to show parking spaces, so when I turn that on, I can see where all the parking spaces are, and I can see whether they're reserved or not based on the colour. That's something I used loads when I was working on the cars, and I'm sure I'll use it a lot more in the future. And then the second option is to show the entity paths. So when I turn this on, you can see the path markers that the entities are currently following. So that's everything I want to do with the debugging system for now. I'm going to take a quick break from programming. I've got some herbs that I want to plant in the kitchen, and then I'll be back to work this afternoon. This afternoon I've been looking into multi-language support so that I can get the game translated into other languages, and this is something that I got really wrong with Equilinox. I waited way too long to start with the translations, and then there turned out to be so many issues with translating the game into other languages that in the end it just never happened. So I definitely don't want to make that mistake again, so I'm going to get started nice and early with the translations this time, so that if any problems do arise, I've got plenty of time to sort them out.
So my plan for the next few days is to do a bit more work on the art style of the game and to make some more decisions specifically about what the buildings in the game are going to look like and what architectural style they're going to have. So far I've just been trying out a mixture of styles, but I'd like to have a better idea of what they're actually going to look like in the finished game. So I think I'm going to look for a bit of inspiration this morning, try out a few different styles, and see if I can work out what would look best in the game. So here are a few houses that I've made this morning. I've been basing them mostly off English cottages because I thought that English cottages look quite cute and that might go well with the cute low poly art style that I'm going for with this game. And I think it works quite well, although I will try out a few different styles in a minute. I've also been learning a lot about how to model 3D houses because I've not really done much of that before apart from the other houses that I've made in this game so far. So I've just been learning how to make different types of roofs and windows and doors. So I've just loaded up some of the houses into the game to see how they look, and I do like this style of house, but the colours are definitely looking a little bit dull and boring and needs a bit of livening up. Also, talking of colour, I need to implement a colour palette because what I've been doing so far is when I create these houses in Blender, I just choose the colours as I go individually for each house, and what I really should be doing is I should have a set colour palette which I then choose colours from. Not only would that then allow me to make sure that all the colours work well together, but it would also bring a bit more consistency into the colours of the game. For example, here you can see I've got like 3 slightly different colours for the windows of the houses, and same for the roofs. They're all meant to be the same colour, but they're all very slightly different. So I'm going to get a colour palette set up now. I can show you a really basic use of a colour palette here. I've just created one very quickly in GIMP, and I've got that loaded up in Blender here. So when I'm creating the models, I can now just take the colours from the colour palette and use that in the model. So if I do that for all the models, obviously they're all going to have the same colours, which is what I want. The problem is, at some point in the future, I'm bound to want to tweak or change the colours in the colour palette for the game, and at the moment I'm only using the colour palette when creating the models. So if we have a look in one of the entity files for a house, which is what the game uses, the colours are all set in here. So if I ever want to change the colour palette for the game, I'd have to go through all of the existing entity files and update all of the colours one by one manually, which I definitely don't want to do. So what I need to do is to somehow link up these entity files with the colour palette itself, so that if I ever update the colour palette, the entities will automatically use the updated colour without me having to update any of the entity files. I've made a few changes so that the entity files can now reference colours in the colour palette. So for example, a lot of these buildings here are using the same colour for their roofs, which is this colour in the colour palette here. So if at any point I think actually the roofs would look better if they were a bit more of an orangey colour, I simply have to update the colour in the colour palette, and if I then relaunch the game, you can see that the roofs now all use that updated colour. And this is obviously going to make it really easy for me to play around with the colours as much as I want, to try out completely different colour palettes for the game, without having to update any of the entity files. So that's all good. Now it's time for dinner. I've been spending quite a bit more time in Blender just trying out a few different things, playing around with the art style, trying out different styles of trees and road, and trying out different colours, just trying to work out where I'm going with the art style for the game. Obviously I don't have to finalise the art style just yet, there's still plenty of time for that, but I just want to have a bit of a better idea of what direction I'm going in. And I think what I've got here I quite like now, so I think this is probably what I'm going to be aiming towards as I go forwards. But of course, please do let me know what you guys think. There's still loads of time to improve and change the art style before the game's finished, so I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas. It is 9 o'clock, and it's such a nice day today that I think we're actually going to be heading to the beach this morning, and then when I get back this afternoon I'm going to start editing this video. So I think that's pretty much going to be it for this week. I'm not too sure when the next devlog video is going to be out, because if you have a look at my Trello, the next tasks are all a little bit boring, lots of bug fixing and code tidying, so I think I'll wait until I've done all of that before I start making the next video. But the good news is that things should start to get a lot more interesting from now on, because basically everything I've been doing up until now, although it's taken absolutely ages, it's all basically been set up. But now that version 0.1 is done, or very close to being done, I can finally move on to the actual interesting parts and the gameplay. So very much looking forward to that. But for this week, that is going to be it. So thank you guys very much for watching this video. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Have a fantastic week, and I will see you all next time.
Смотри, это беспроводной Powerbank, который мы производим под своим брендом. Его себестоимость включает доставку 1000 рублей. А вот мы продаем его на топовых маркетплейсах. Озон, Беру, Валберес и другие. И самое приятное в том, что он продается на полном автомате. Независимо, где я нахожусь, мне не нужно прикладывать никаких усилий, продажи идут сами собой. И ты можешь также. Если тебе интересно, кликай по кнопке, регистрируйся на мой предстоящий онлайн-мастер-класс по продажам на маркетплейсах, и ты сможешь запустить продажи на топовых маркетплейсах СНГ. На онлайн-мастер-классе я расскажу, во-первых, как выбрать правильный товар, который будет продаваться. И во-вторых, как его забрендировать, чтобы это был твой собственный бренд. В-третьих, как выйти на маркетплейсы и как запустить продажи, что нужно сделать, чтобы товар начал продаваться. И я поделюсь личным опытом, который поможет тебе избежать многих ошибок и сэкономит твое время. Поэтому кликай по кнопке, регистрируйся на онлайн-мастер-класс и увидимся. Действуй!
Сотрудники для тех, кто развивает бизнес. Для тех, кому важна скорость найма. Для тех, кто ценит простоту и прозрачность подбора. Для тех, кому нужно больше рабочих рук. Для тех, кто строит будущее. Сотрудники для вас на ХХРУ.
Hi, I'm Noah, and I'm an architectural designer and also a part-time indie game developer working on a pixel art game known as Chef RPG. Why is an architectural designer creating video games? Well, a few months ago, I had just graduated from architecture school and wasn't mentally prepared to join the workforce. I wanted to keep creating imaginative designs like we did in architecture studios, but architect interns starting in an office usually have very little say in the design of projects. I wanted to keep creating imaginative designs without the constraints of budget, clients, or even the corporate ladder. In the past, I've completed in many student architectural competitions, winning some prizes here and there. However, I ended up jumping from one competition to another, sometimes doing 4 competitions in the span of 2 months, but without much direction or sense of why I was doing it. I realized after a while that I just wanted to work on a single large project, one that I can put all of my design skills into, resulting in a product that many people could enjoy. Hence, I got the idea to create my own video game, which gives me an opportunity to create a fully unique game world. And that leads us to today. I've been learning to code for the past few months, and it's full steam ahead for the development of Chef RPG. For this video, I'm going to be creating a seaside town using architecture and urban design techniques and showing my design process along the way. I usually like to start with a sketch to kickstart a bunch of ideas. It usually doesn't matter what you draw, but it's super useful to draw something and have a base to start working from. I'm imagining a multi-level town surrounded by a forest facing the water. The town contains many branching paths leading to a variety of shops and activities. There will be a port area where a fish market and fishing boats will be located. So with this rough sketch, the first thing I want to do is determine primary circulation routes and the massing and function of buildings. It's important to determine a central route of travel, and it should pass through the